Welcome to Model Kit Stuff, where you'll find all of this. Hello and welcome to Model Kit Stuff, and welcome to part 17 of our build of the Endeavour by Amati. And in this episode we're going to be looking at figure 15. So let's read what we've got to do. It says, assemble the master hatch cover, pieces from 38 to 42. Drill the 4 holes on pieces 42 according to the drawing with the same diameter of the base of the eyelet 44. Assemble and finish with a fine sandpaper, then paint with a mahogany colour. Paint and clear transparent varnish. Apply portholes 44 on the holes. So what we're doing is we're building this hatch. We've got to drill some holes and then we're putting these brass portholes into it. When we look here, it's showing us our parts, and for some reason it's not numbering these, which are a number 44. It's not showing those on there, only the wooden things, and it says holes to be drilled on there, which we know. So let's start by assembling our parts. So these are the parts for today's part of the build. Make sure you get the right little portholes. So the ones that we're using today are part of the 10 shorter length ones, not out of this bag of longer length ones. So make sure you get the right ones, otherwise that might cause you a problem later in the build. So we can put those 4 or 3 out of those 4 to one side for now. Put them somewhere safe where you're not going to lose them, they're not going to roll off your desk. Put them in a jar lid or something like that. So first thing we need to understand is how big a hole are we having to drill. So we need to find a drill shank that's the same diameter as the hole. So I'm going to go initially with a 1.5 because that sort of looks about right to my eye, and we will see. No, that's a bit small actually. Yeah, I can fit that inside the hole. So we'll go with my largest one, and we might have to open it up a little bit. Yeah, we might have to open it up a little bit. Okay, so we've got our largest drill bit out. So I'm using a 1.6. Let's get that in our handle and we're ready to go. Right, now then, we could take measurements and measure the positions of this to make sure it's accurate, but a slightly quicker way of doing it is to make a template. So, using some tracing paper or some baking parchment I find works quite well. That's what I've got here. Going to just make a little template that we can then stick over our wooden part. So let's just get some tape. There we go, and I am going to draw in the outside lines because that's going to help me to locate the edges of the part and make sure that we've got these in the right position. So just draw that on. You could just do 2 edges for the alignment, one top and one side, but I'm going to do all 4 just for thoroughness. And then I'm going to just draw in those circles. Okay, so we should have our template now. So if we take this off, put that to one side, and we get our parts before we've removed them, so we've got it a little bit more stable. We're going to place this on top. There we go. Yeah, that's perfect. Right, there we go. So I can now drill through those holes, but to stop the drill wandering, and we're not using a power tool, we're using, we're going to do this by hand. It'll be quicker. So by the time you set up a power tool, you could have done it. So I'm just going to use an awl to put a center hole in. So I'm doing it by eye. Find the center, just press the awl in. There we go. So that's all good. And now you can actually take your template off, because we can see those holes there. And we are ready to drill. But you don't want to drill straight into your cutting mat, so we need to put something underneath there. I'm going to use an old lollipop stick for this. So we're just going to put that over the lolly stick, and then when we drill in, once we've gone through, we'll feel that we've gone through and we won't be damaging our cutting mat. So locate the little impression we made with the awl, with the tip of the drill, and then making sure that we're nice and square. Just going to drill through that nice and slowly. There we go. You see how that's raised up? That means we've gone all the way through. So I can take that out now and do the same with that one. There we go. I can feel we've gone through. There we go, you see. Just do these last two, and then we can look at cleaning them up. Okay, we can get rid of that. We can get rid of our drill. Now, we've got all these lumps and bumps that have been made by our drill. So first thing I want to do is take our drill bit from the back and just run it back through the hole. So we know that the hole is nice and clear. Okay, so that's good. And then the next thing we want to do is just go over it with and sand any little bits and pieces off. Okay, like so, and then go back through with our drill and clear those holes again. Right, so that is our holes done, and we know that they're nice and clean. Just run your finger over it. If you think it still feels a little bit bumpy and it's not smooth, just do the process again. We want it perfect. Nothing else will do. Okay, that feels smooth now. I'm going to pick a side now for being the exterior. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to try one of the portholes to see how far off we are. I know this hole isn't going to be big enough. Right, yeah, it's not big enough. So we need to open up the hole a little bit. So there's two different ways we can do that to make sure that we stay centered. So let's look at those. So we can either use a tool like this to open up the hole, which is designed for that job. I find that the reamers work better on plastic than wood, depending on the wood. And because this is plywood, it could splinter. So I'm going to go to my old trusted method, which is to use a rat tail or round file. So we can now go in with that file, take it to the point where it naturally stops, and just twist it like it's a drill backwards and forwards. And that will generally open up the hole a little bit. And by doing that, you're keeping it centered, so you're not deforming the shape, you're keeping it circular, and you're not taking it away from the center point that you drilled out. And we're just going to keep doing that until our portholes, I was trying to think of the word then, drop into place. So what we want is a snug fit, but loose enough that we can put them in and then glue them. So if you have to force it in any way at all, your hole isn't big enough. So it's just a case of keep trying. There we go. And that's dropped into place nicely now. So I'm going to do the other three and then I'll come back to you. So my holes are now widened and they accept the brass parts. And the next thing we need to do is build up the frame. And you can see I've started. So I'm using a medium CA. And what I've done is I've glued the first strip on and then using one of the edge pieces for distancing, put the other one on, and then all we need to do is glue these two end pieces into place. So you glue the first one on, let it dry, put a bit of glue on the next one, put it on, and then just use that to make sure you've got your distance right before the glue hardens. So you have to act fairly quickly, but it only takes a moment. So we can put glue on this underside here and a bit of glue on our joints. So medium CA, and then we can use the same medium CA for putting the portholes in. But obviously before we do that, we've got some painting to do. So there you go, that slots into place. Lovely. Let's quickly do the other side. Exactly the same. There we go. Just make sure everything's pushed into place nice and square. There we go, and that's our hatch built up. So we'll give that a moment to dry, and while that's drying we can get our paint out ready to give it a final coat. So using the same walnut paint that we've used throughout the build, I'm just going to thin it down a little bit with water because we've already got this down, so we're just tidying it up really. I'm going to start with the edges like that. We will probably have to do 2 coats as always on these laminated edges, darker wood and the laser scoring can come through. Apologies, someone has started hammering in the garden, but it is Easter Sunday as I'm recording this, so everyone's home doing DIY jobs and things like that. So it does get a bit noisy. There we go, and if I just put that down, I can just go over the top here. Now in the instructions it tells you to give it a clear coat, and then it tells you to install the brass windows. But you can put them in and then clear coat over them, which will stop them from tarnishing. Now, some people like the tarnish look, like it to sort of age, and other people prefer it to stay as it was. I'm going to install mine beforehand and then varnish over the top using the same varnish we've used throughout the build, and that'll be just fine. So, gonna let that dry for a minute, then we can do a second coat around the edges, and then we can install the portholes. Okay, I've given that a second coat of paint and that is now dry. So we're ready to put these little portholes in. So what we're going to do is we're going to start by putting a small amount of CA into the hole. Do not be tempted to put it on the part. If you put it on the part, you're much more likely to have glue ooze out. If you put it in the hole, when the part goes in, it sort of pushes the glue in and coats the part with the glue. And then using some tweezers, we can then, if we hold the tweezers, we can see the bottom of that, so we can see it being aligned. And that means we're not likely to get glue everywhere. And then you can use the back of the tweezers just to press that down. There we go. It's as simple as that. Try not to put too much in. Don't worry if you get a little bit over the edge, because there is a lip on these. There we go. Well, that's going in nice and easy. So I'm going to put glue on both of those, and then we can just get them both done. There we go. That is our master hatch cover built. So let's have a look at placing it on the model. So as we look at the plans, we can see this is our hatch cover here, and this is the skylight that we put in the last episode. So measuring the distance from the skylight to our hatch, I can see it's 58.5 millimeters. So that's the distance we need to measure. This here is the mast hole. So that just gives us a reference point. And it needs to be in the center line of our deck. So doing the same process as we did last time with the masking tape to mark the halfway point, gonna do that. So I'm not going to show you how to do that because we did it in the last episode. So if you need to jog your memory, go and have a look at the back end of the last video where we talk about it. I'm going to put the tape on the hatch and then we can have a look at installing it. Right, got our rule in place along the center line, so we can measure our 58.5. So 5, 6, 7, 8.5 is there. We'll put our tape down there and just remove our rule. There we go, that's our line. And then we've got our halfway marker on our, like so. So all we need to do is add some glue and stick that down. So let's have a look at that. I'm going to use the same medium CA that we've used throughout the build part today, and put a little bit on the inside of the edges so that we're getting a little bit on the flat surface, but any oozing is going to go on the inside. And not too much. You'll be amazed how visible CA can become in the light. There we go. I'll just check that looks good. Yep, looks spot on. So that's our master hatch glued in place and installed, and that brings us to the end of this episode. So that completes step or figure 15 in our build, and in next time's episode, if we just turn over, we are tackling figure 16. Now we've got two figures on here. So figure 16 covers the installation of these parts here, and then figure 17 continues with the building of the rail. So we'll be dealing with drilling and locating these three different parts, but it's not just three parts. There's 6 of those, there's 9 of those, and 27 cleats to do. So we've got quite a busy episode coming up next time. So I will see you then. I hope you've enjoyed the build. You enjoy your modelling, and I will see you very soon. Bye for now. Thanks for watching. Please hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't done so. It's free, and that way you won't miss my first impressions, my tool reviews, my product reviews, and any of my builds, including wooden model kits as well as plastic. It's all free, and if you'd like to support the channel, you can hit my PayPal link in the text below. Every pound goes straight into the channel to keep the cameras rolling and to do more fun stuff for you to watch.